Today is my first day of conversion therapy. I'm getting ready to replace my sick-ass homosexuality with a boring little holy sexuality. Instead of the son of some man being inside of me, the Son of God himself is going to fill me up. Now, unfortunately, conversion therapy is illegal in Canada, but the fascists downstairs love torturing my people, so I bought a course online from American patriot and reformed homosexual drug dealer, convict, and dump Christopher Yuan, creator of Holy Sexuality, a conversion therapy course that will change you from a filthy little into a heaven-bound holy sexual. We only have dial-up internet in Canada because high-speed freezes in the pipes, so I burned these CDs from his website at the internet cafe. There are 4 CDs to get to, and as soon as you at home stop cooking and turn around and look at me, we're going to do them together, starting with the basics. Is homosexuality an innate part of who you are, or an abomination created by the devil? Might it be both? And more importantly, why is gay sex just like God himself? Let's find out now.
My name is Christopher Yuan, and I've been speaking and writing on biblical sexuality for a couple decades. You might be thinking, who is this Christopher Yuan guy, and why does he teach on sexuality?
Oh, I know who you are. I read your little book. The answer is he used to be gay and fun and full of cum, and now he's a right-wing ex-con, ex-addict, ex-homosexual, current Zionist that's engaged to a woman, although she's seen less frequently than many other cryptids. But we'll get to his lore in Disc 2. It is as wild as it is unhinged. This man is terrible at being a drug/gay lord. My new pronouns are drug/gay.
Let's consider same-sex romantic desires. Some Christians claim that these romantic desires are good, so long as there is no sexual act involved. But let's think about this. What are the actions associated with same-sex romantic desires? This may be difficult to discern as we often equate romance with sexual acts. The two may be associated, but are not always the same. Basically, romance is when you want this person completely and exclusively to yourself. To put it bluntly, if you had romantic desires for your sister, your brother, or your mom, would it be right or wrong?
Would your mom be okay? I don't know, Oedipus, you tell me. You're the one who conflates fucking a man, something you've done a lot of, with fucking your mom, who you seem to have a really extremely close and unhealthy relationship with. I think thou dost prostate too much.
Although same-sex romantic desires may seem innocent, they're really not.
Great argument. A man fucking a man is a lot like fucking mom, for reasons I cannot and will not explain because of other reasons I cannot and will not explain. He does explain to us why it's a sin, though. You see, as a child of God, we are one with him in Christ. Literally, we are all part of the same spiritual body, connected through Christ.
Being a member of Christ is not a metaphor, it's a physical reality. So if a Christian commits sexual immorality with his physical body, he is in essence uniting with another sinner when he should be exclusively united with Christ. Let that sink in. As a Christian, if you have sex with your boyfriend, experiment with someone of the same sex, watch pornography, or even masturbate, you're actually involving a member of Christ in that nefarious act.
So because God doesn't want us to participate in sinful sexual acts, he does not consent to us engaging in them, which is a problem, I guess, given we're a part of him. Raw dogging some dude in a bush behind the local arboretum, you're gaping and breeding Jesus, you Christ stuffer. Swallowing load after load on the dirty mattress on the second floor of an abandoned house in Nebraska, you're forcing God to gulp those spermies. Every time you crank it to someone's OnlyFans account, you're whacking off the Holy Ghost. Finding this out right now, after all the times I've done all those things, well, it's unbelievable. As in, I don't believe it. Basically, if you're unmarried and sexually active, you're God. If you're married, however, it's okay, because as all good Christians know, there's no marriage. His whole argument boils down to, how can you say being gay isn't hurting anyone when you're clearly and objectively committing a crime against God himself? Think about it. I haven't, and I won't, because that's nonsense. People have long fought to keep God and the government out of their bedrooms, and they both keep kicking the door down, trying to get in. Like you're about to make some sweet consensual love, and they're like, isn't there somebody you forgot to ask? No. People have the right to privacy. Get out of my bed.
I'm sure you know people who identify as gay, lesbian, trans, or something else. When they say, I am gay, they don't mean this is what I do or what I feel. They mean this is who I am. In other words, this is my essence, the core of my being.
Sir, If you're going to try to convince me not to be queer anymore, I need you to stop besmirching your own credibility by lying to my face. I don't know a single queer or trans person who says their identity is the core of their being. They're just stating it's a part of their identity that impacts their lives due to external systemic forces. He has a real bugbear about people identifying as queer or trans. Like, just the concept alone is so affronting to him.
They distorted sexuality to be who we are, when in fact, sexuality is what we feel and do.
What we feel and what we do is part of who we are. If there is a soul, that is its essence. Our feelings, thoughts, actions, desires, and our morals. That is what makes us who we are, what defines us. His love for God makes him Christian, the core of his being. Same logic. It's like saying I'm not a lawyer. No, I just practice law and I'm like an attorney and I'm incredibly passionate about law. Oh, one thing I should say, Christina does not call this course conversion therapy, but several times throughout it, she betrays himself and reveals his motivations. Because this program is aimed at changing your behaviors. And if sexuality is just a behavior, then changing your behaviors is changing your sexuality. And so it is conversion therapy.
Attraction may be one of the most intimate and personal emotions we have. But do these labels truly describe who we are? Or do they merely describe what we feel, or what we like, or what we do? I have a friend named Andy. Andy left his wife for another man. And you know how Andy justified it? He said, "This is who I am. Gay no longer means what someone desires or what someone does. It has wrongly become who a person is." Well, let's think about that for a moment. Are there any other feelings or behaviors that we've made our identity?
Sure. What about I'm an environmentalist? The feeling is a deep concern for the planet and a moral conviction. The behavior might be recycling or direct action like protests. The identity is environmentalist, which guides your daily choices, how you vote, your lifestyle. These terms are just created as a shorthand to explain something about yourself. But if our sexuality shouldn't be how we ever identify ourselves, what should?
Everyone is created in the image of God. It's inherent to who we are and is never erased. When we say that every person should be treated with dignity and respect, it's not because of our commitment to social justice and human rights.
I know that's right, Christina. Nobody thinks you're committed to social justice or human rights. You're literally advocating against both. He rambles on for a while about how because the Bible said we were created male and female, that means our sex is part of our core identity, which is fine for whatever reason, despite it not being fine for other similar characteristics.
It's because we're all created in the image of God.
Well then, love to hate to tell you this, but your God is an annoying bald
Notice that every desire has an object and an associated action. For example, a father desires his daughter. The object of desire is his child. Is this sinful or not? We don't know until we got more information about the desired action. So if the father desires to spend time with his daughter and teach her the ways of the Lord, then this is a wonderful, godly desire. However, if the father desires to abuse his daughter, then obviously this is a sinful desire.
This is extremely weird phrasing. Nobody is begging a judge for custody like, I desire my daughter. In fact, if they did, the judge would probably just lock them up. Unless the judge was like a Republican or whatever. I agree that what makes a desire good or bad is the end result. And to me, the end result of being authentically yourself while honoring and respecting the autonomy of yourself and others is one of the most important things you can do on earth. But to Christ stuffer, your actions don't define you. Even thoughts are sins, and all of your conceptions must be immaculate.
There's a young man walking down the street, and this really attractive girl walks by. He couldn't help that she was there. This is a temptation, not actual sin. When does it turn into sin? When he turns his head, looks at her body, and begins objectifying her and fantasizing about her. This is the difference between temptation and sinful desire.
Well, guess what? If seeing a dick print and silently wishing I could turn into a pair of gray joggers and be worn out by someone's father is a sin, then, well, I'm still going to do it. Because an adult having a fantasy in their head about another adult is not actually analogous to harming someone, and you comparing same-sex attraction to being a daughter predator is both nonsense and abhorrent.
What matters most is not that we are tempted, but how we respond to temptation. The ultimate goal when it comes to sexuality is to glorify God by denying yourself, taking up your cross, and following Jesus. Following Jesus means self-denial. And self-denial means joy in Christ.
Okay, so now you agree that being gay is part of who you are and your sense of self. You just want people to deny themselves, also known as repression. And repressing your sexuality has had many documented and demonstrable harms. Before I started conversion therapy, I brushed up on how it works. I watched this documentary called But I'm a Cheerleader on Conversion Therapy. And it said in order to properly repress your desires, you need to teach the body that those thoughts are wrong by creating a negative association with it. So I ordered this cute, huge electric prod thing like in the film, and it should be coming tonight.
If we aren't intentional about getting in God's word daily, our days will just fly by. Plan your day and your week to get into God's word several times a week, if not daily. I live much better like this. God, have your way with me and help me to delight in you in whatever situation I'm in.
Bottom. Tu es gaped toi. I know that every study ever done on the effects of prayer has shown prayer to be ineffective at best, but I'm willing to give it my all in service of the one thing that's always been there to lift me up and make it through. Ad revenue. And when you only saw one set of footprints in the sand, those were AdSense carrying you. God, have your way with me and help me to delight in you in whatever position I'm in. Well, that was easy. But I have to do it every day for it to work, I guess, like antibiotics. My prayers alone aren't even enough, though. I also need other people to pray for me, like Christian or whatever his name is. How does family pray for him?
My mom began to pray a bold prayer. In her desperation, she fasted every Monday for 7 years and once fasted 39 days on my behalf.
Stop eating.
She would spend hours every morning in her prayer closet, on her knees, reading the Bible and crying out to God.
Spend hours morning closet on knees. I can do that. I've always done that. Christopher's horrible little mother made her prayer closet in the shower, so I'm going to do that too before bed tonight. If she can spend 4 years without showering, why can't I?
Jesus is exhorting us. Be my disciple. This means learning from Jesus like a pupil or apprentice. It means being constantly associated with Jesus day in and day out, in season and out of season. Disciples surrender their autonomy, in essence, their freedom.
I'm sorry. Come at me again? I'm really not trusting of any religious organization that says in order for you not to be tortured for eternity, you need to essentially be unable to say no to their demands. If you know what's good for you, and trust us, you don't, you'll do exactly as we say. When conversion therapists invoke discipleship as surrendering autonomy and freedom, they're not describing spiritual growth, but psychological captivity, which is the exact dynamic that runs through both cultic abuse and authoritarian control.
For Christ to live in us, we must die to self. We must surrender. Following Jesus should cost us everything.
Okay, at this point, there's just some weird little boomer groomer promoting his crusty 2,000-year-old cult. No religion should cost you your freedom, let alone cost you everything. There's no difference between his ideology and Scientology, and I would know. And you will too in a few months. This homosexual is really starting to creep me out. He's like, if I can do it, you can too. But I'm fairly certain I'm gayer than he ever was. I'm gayer than most people ever was. I mean, I'm going to try it, obviously. But for me to have faith that'll work, I think I need him to explain just how filthy he was in his heyday. Which we'll get to tomorrow. In disc 2. All about Christopher himself. I'm only doing 1 disc a day because this freak is like no charisma, all carpenter. So it's really hard to sit through. I'd rather just take the rest of the night to set up my cute little prayer cupboard or whatever. So I'll meet you there later. I've never felt more holy than I do in this sacred space. This shower used to be a place of sin, but now the only gold showering down upon my face will be the golden rays of God's divine love. I used a photo of Christopher's mommy set up, and I think I got the aesthetic, perfectly. Of course, mine is less tacky and more holy than hers could ever be, as I have more post-its and taste, and my cross was made from 2 twigs from the neighbor's dog piss-covered grass. Oh, I forgot my humidifier. Oh yeah, that's good. Oh yeah, God's all over me. Oh yeah, spray it, spray it. I've done everything possible to set myself up for success in being a God-loving heterosexual. I got this thing. I blocked all the sexy gay sites from my phone, even the feet ones, despite Jesus himself being known to love to give a foot a good dunk bath. I've also thrown out all my pride flags, which is exactly none because they're tacky. I feel like I have everything that I need. Got my Bible, got my prayer beads, got this wet-ass bath mat. What else could I need? Since I won't be able to shower, in a few days I'll be smelling cishead as hell too. Like fucking roadkill outside of church on a hot Sunday morning. Just the way God intended. Good night, I love you. God, have your way with me and help me to delight in you in whatever position I'm in. You know, I woke up this morning kind of feeling just as gay as yesterday, but maybe it takes a while to kick in, like an edible. I bet in like 2 hours, the only hung twink I'll be thinking about is the one my daddy sent to die for my sinnies. In the meantime, we're going to do a deep dive into Christopher himself. Really get up in there and root around inside him and see what makes him tick and what makes him sick. So, I've read his books. They are not well written or interesting, but they do contain words and at least provide a detailed account of his life prior to whatever excuse for a life he's leading now. And his life? Unreal. He has his narrative locked in, though. He has told the story thousands of times at this point, and it always starts and ends the same way. Poorly and cliched. Let's watch it now.
I had this secret that I kept hidden through high school, college. In my early 20s, I moved away from home and came out of the closet. At that point, I believed that my sexuality was my main core identity.
Okay, so your whole narrative is just you projecting. That tracks. Very conservative core.
I decided to go home and break the news to my parents, and I told them I am gay. It was my declaration. My mom gave me an ultimatum to choose the family or choose that. But for me, this wasn't a choice. And I said, if you can't accept me, I have no other choice but to leave. So I left.
I actually really do sympathize with what's his nuts here. Plenty of kids are excommunicated from their families with false ultimatums like this. You cannot pick your sexuality, so the proposition only has a thin veneer of choice laid over it, a mirage you could never actually reach. He seems to have known this, and his book elucidates on this point way more than the series does, in part because the book he wrote with her shows how terrible of a mother Angela Yuan is. In fact, in the very first chapter, she reveals how horrible she was to him. She recounts how Christopher was 16, having sex with a 30-year-old man, and Angela said she decided not to press charges because she was ashamed and worried people might find out her son was assaulted by a man and think he could be gay.
Added to the terrible disgrace was constant anxiety. During Christopher's teenage years, my days were filled with fear. I worried about what people would say if they found out. I worried about how much Christopher was scarred, and whether his future would be affected by this incident. I especially worried about whether he would become gay.
So she did the only thing a reasonable, rational, non-abusive parent would do if they thought their child might be gay. Bring him to a cult to be purified. That's right, it's the motherfucking 80s, and we're about to go fucking clear.
So Christopher and I traveled from Chicago to the Scientology mission of San Francisco, where we enrolled in a program that required us to be there mornings and afternoons for 2 months. Certainly, their techniques were a little bizarre, sitting in a sauna for hours or holding metal cans during counseling or auditing sessions. But I was determined to beat this, for Christopher's sake. Failure was not an option that I was willing to consider. After 2 months and more than $15,000, we finished the purification program. More important, Christopher assured me that he was over that phase and ready to move on with life. I thought we had it all taken care of.
She really thought some steam and a couple of metal cans would work as conversion therapy. You'd have better luck making a long-distance call with those cans. When Christopher was 20, his father found a VHS tape with some of his gay love videos hidden in the crawl space of the house. When Christopher arrived home from college for a visit, they confronted him, and he admitted he was gay, and they presented a false ultimatum. Be gay or be our son. And they got their answer. He could not be gay, so I guess it was goodbye. Angela's response, of course, is to crash the fuck out and throw herself on the floor, as every normal person would.
My knees gave way and I fell to the floor, that I had to strain just to breathe. This couldn't be happening. I began gasping for air. Christopher, the one I thought would never do this to me, had rejected me, leaving me lying on the floor alone, gasping between sobs. Receiving news of his death would have been easier to accept than all of this.
And her husband Leon was no help, and he was also clearly emotionally abusive at times, saying things like,
"No matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, as long as my mother is alive, you will never be a good wife." He also told me how his mother would always remind him, "In life, you only have one mother, but wives are like paint on a wall."
After that night, Christopher had escaped his shitty, abusive, bigoted parents and began living his life to the fullest. And yes, I do mean fullest of cum.
I spent most of my free time in the gay clubs, and I went from relationship to relationship and began experimenting with drugs. Not only was I doing drugs, but I was selling drugs. I sold to friends, classmates, even a professor.
He said,
I was a boozer, a user, and a loser.
This is all he said about being a feral slut in this video, but his books paint a very different picture. I don't understand why he'd sell himself short here. He was not just going from relationship to relationship like a serial monogamist. Our boy was a hot little piece who was high on meth and never met a cummie he wouldn't guzzle.
Smoking ice made me desire sex more than food. So I started frequenting bathhouses. A bathhouse exists for only one reason: anonymous sex between gay men. It's typically a back alley, hole-in-the-wall kind of place. I always go alone. No one goes there to socialize. The dimly lit hallway had tiny holes on both sides, each with a foam mattress on a plywood platform. The rooms were moldy and dank, smelling of sweat, steam, and more sweat. I'd often lie to myself, saying that I'd just stop in for a moment and leave after one encounter. But 8 hours and countless nameless faces later, I was at the desk paying $30 for another 8 hours.
Listen, I no longer doubt his gay cred. Homeboy was gaped. Must have been so luxurious and spacious in there. You could have moved a queen-size bed frame through him without damaging any of those pink little walls. I have friends with less room in their one-bedroom apartments. So he was out smoking meth and pole on his knees in the bathhouse, and Mama's smoking Christ on her knees in the bathroom, wearing those caps out on the shower tile.
In her prayer closet, on her knees, reading the Bible and crying out to God. She knew that it was going to take nothing short of a miracle to bring this prodigal son to the Father. And a miracle is exactly what God did. This miracle came with a bang on my door. I opened up my door, and on my doorstep were 12 federal drug enforcement agents, police officers, and 2 big German Shepherd dogs.
Okay, so I will say, it was not a miracle he got arrested. It just wasn't. He was a horrible drug dealer. He was more obvious about committing crimes than he is about still clearly being a homosexual. You would not believe me if I didn't explain it, and so I will. He started selling drugs out of his apartment, but had office hours and staff, and anyone was able to just come and sit down and place an order for meth or coke or whatever, and he would then keep detailed expense reports of everything. Literally would write down his transactions and customers and suppliers for his crime syndicate, essentially doing the cops' investigation for them, like a bootlicker.
Agent stuck his head out of my bedroom doorway. Boss, you need to come here and look at this. Like now. My business records. Out of habit from working in my dad's dental office, I kept all my receipts and recorded my major business transactions. It helped me to remember whom I sold to or bought from, how much I sold or bought, and how much I charged or paid. Filed with the records were receipts and bills. Phone bills, hotel receipts, plane ticket stubs, credit card statements.
He would also deal at clubs where him and his hot friends would run around shirtless with blinking lights strapped to them to signal to everyone that they were selling drugs. They'd then sell them on the dance floor in full view of everyone in the club. He even tried to find notoriety as a drug dealer by throwing parties where they'd sell ice, which he very subtly named Ice by Christopher Yuan. When I say he brought this all on himself through sheer stupidity and hubris, I'm barely even scratching the belly of the surface here. He had every chance to stop what he was doing. He didn't even need the cash, but he didn't. Just like Christopher today, Christopher then was obsessed with getting attention and praise. And I wonder why. Let me ask my friend Freudels. So when he got a call from a strange voice that was like, "They're watching you," he was like, well, then I'll lay low for a couple weeks. I guess he thought they'd stop monitoring him for some reason. Because everyone knows a case becomes cold if it can't be solved in a matter of days. I have no idea why he thought this was sound thinking, but he started selling drugs again. Around this time, I think. The timeline's a bit wonky to me due to my heavy drug use. But he also got some shocking news when he found out his partner was HIV positive and hadn't told him out of fear.
But strangely, I felt a sense of freedom. No longer did I have to wonder if I'd been infected. There was no need to get tested. It wouldn't make a difference anyway. Now I could live my life without worrying if I'd catch it. Now I was all in. I felt that I had attained something special in the gay community. I was part of the inner circle. Now I was one of them. I actually felt a little comforted by it all. Men who were HIV positive were lionized. They were profiled in gay magazines. They got their names put on quilts. Certainly AIDS was a terrible thing, but I felt somehow that I'd become a hero.
This segment from earlier about spending 16 hours at a time high on meth at the bathhouse is later in the book than this section. And I have no idea if that was an intentional decision, but hearing you've been exposed to HIV, then actively choosing not to get tested, but then assuming you have it, but then having sex with random men while high as hell does not seem like a responsible way to conduct yourself. And it seems to be what he did. It was not like it is today, where a pill a day can make your viral load undetectable, and you have infinitely less to worry about. Although Christopher didn't seem all that worried about it.
There was a time I assumed I'd been infected, but I never truly dealt with what that meant for me. I hadn't even gone to the trouble of getting tested. I had always managed to keep the idea of it tucked away in the back of my mind, which was numbed by the effects of illicit drugs.
I'm so put off by his description of what it meant to have AIDS during the AIDS crisis. Like, they got so much attention. They got to be in magazines and their names put on quilts. Sure, AIDS is bad, but I guess you could say, now I was special. No, now I was a hero. This feels like a Sarah Silverman skit. This is a Sarah Silverman skit. She assumes she's HIV positive and spends the entire episode acting like some benevolent hero and activist.
I have AIDS. No. The blood test results will tell us that for sure.
People of AIDS, you're applauding yourself. I'm one of you. So in that respect, you are applauding me, and I thank you.
I don't even know what to say apart from I can just about guarantee you that nobody wanted to be on the AIDS quilt because getting your name on the quilt meant you died. So none of this is in the video series, but I think it's pivotal information as to his motivation, character, and how much stock you should put in his advice. After Christopher, and not just his development, was arrested.
But they confiscated all my money and the drugs I had, which the court noted was equivalent to 9.1 tons of marijuana. With that amount, I was facing 10 years to life in federal prison. I'd started with a bright future among society's finest in academia, and I found myself in the ditch among society's despised in jail.
He said,
It's some more time.
okay, let's be so real. Nobody thinks dentists are society's finest. 9 out of 10 people who aren't dentists hate dentists. They're fake doctors, and I would know a lot about being a fake doctor. Because I'm a real. The DEA agents that arrest him go through his apartment and find his pile of meticulous records of all of his crimes with his receipts and are fucking wheezing at how stupid he is and haul him off to jail. His one phone call was to Little Miss Worn Out Kneecaps herself, Mummy.
Actually, my mom was excited to get that phone call because I hadn't called home in years, and she realized that this was God's answer to her prayers.
Yeah, I bet your mom was happy. She wanted you in prison where you had nobody to turn to but her.
As my years in prison passed, she kept adding to this list of blessings. And when I got out of prison, this list of blessings was longer and taller than she is.
I'm half Boer on my mother's side.
This list of blessings.
That was as big as her. Once in prison, Christopher had a panel of medical tests done routinely, and his blood work came back HIV positive.
As I passed the garbage can, I thought, this is my life. My dad had 2 doctorates. I was just 3 months away from receiving my own doctorate. I had it made. But now I found myself among common criminals. Trash.
Nothing more Christian conservative than calling prisoners trash.
With my head down, I was about to pass by this garbage can, but something on top of the trash caught my eye.
I used condom, so I took my little Go-Gurt home for later. No, it was a piece of paper that said Christopher, and he looked at it and he realized the truth buried inside his holy name. God had a message for him. Chris, top her. And right then and there in prison, where he belonged and still belongs to this day, he finally understood that God wanted him to peg a woman, or whatever straight people call it when that happens. Piv? No, it was a Bible sitting in the trash, where it belonged and still belongs to this day. And he took it because taking it is first nature to him. But also, he took it as a sign that he needed to renounce sin and find God. But he was having trouble squaring away his natural, healthy, sexy attraction to men and his self-acceptance with the condemnation he assumed was in the Bible.
And there was just this one thing that I felt like I just couldn't let go of. My sexuality. So I went to a chaplain and I asked him his opinion. And to my surprise, he told me he believed the Bible does not condemn same-sex relationships. He even gave me a book explaining that view. I had that book in one hand and the Bible in the other. But God's indwelling Holy Spirit convicted me that those assertions were a clear distortion of God and his word. I couldn't even finish that book, and I gave it back to the chaplain.
Well, I feel very comfortable paying for a course where you debunk arguments you didn't bother to engage with. He wasn't even like, hey, let's compare both of these texts in full. He just got a holy download from God who was like, that book's shit.
My identity should not be defined by my sexuality. My identity should not be grounded in my desires. My identity is not gay. It's not ex-gay. It's not even heterosexual for that matter.
I mean, I agree. You are not a heterosexual. Nobody is. This is just a semantic game he plays, where what he seems to mean is, I'm not gay, that's an identity. I'm simply only and exclusively attracted to men, but I love God, a man who very much uses capital he, him pronouns, too much to enjoy his creations as they were intended, with plenty of nature's lube. Lube. Again, he continues to push his, I should not be defined by this one thing, as if anyone is arguing for that.
I believe that my sexuality was my main core identity.
Well, maybe it was the core for you, but nobody told you to do that. You're the one who got addicted to dance music.
When I bought a radio at the prison commissary in Atlanta and later in Lexington, the first thing I did was find the stations that played dance music. I had asked myself the question, can I live without the music?
Have you considered you're just not interesting or funny and didn't have any hobbies? And you still make your sexuality the entire core of your identity. You can't go a single minute without talking about it. You built your entire life and career around it.
I was at a turning point, a crossroads. Either abandon God and his word, live as a gay man by allowing my sexual attractions to dictate not only who I was, but also how I lived. Or abandon pursuing a monogamous same-sex relationship by freeing myself from my sexuality, by not allowing my desires to control who I was.
While he may say he's not an ex-gay and this isn't conversion therapy, freeing yourself from your sexuality says ex-gay very clearly to me. What Christopher is actually describing isn't liberation from sexual desire, but capitulation to a theological system that demanded he choose between psychological wholeness and religious community belonging, and then rebranded his trauma response to that demand as a sort of spiritual victory. It's not.
I knew that I needed to learn more about the Bible, so I called my parents and asked them to mail me an application to Moody Bible Institute.
He said,
But now I'm back in school.
I was able to persuade a prison chaplain, a prison guard, and another inmate to write my references. Amazingly, I was actually accepted.
all my references are written by criminals too. You're not special. And also, I'm assuming literally everybody gets into Moody Bible School. Why would they turn somebody away? Christianity is not doing well, and they need your cash more than ever. You can even donate to them, or if you'd like to use your money more wisely, you can donate to Librarian, coming out in 2026.
I graduated from Bible college in 2005, went on to get my master's in exegesis in 2007, and received my doctorate of ministry in 2014.
Hate to tell you this, Christopher, but your degrees are fake. Having a doctorate of ministry is like having a doctorate in Bigfoot. Like, sure, you're a doctor, but you studied something a bunch of medieval incels came up with. And you know what? I'm sick of you thinking that you're holier than me. I'm covered in holes. I'm so close to God that I can feel my cloaca opening up for him. But fine, I'm gonna even the scales. I just got ordained online, so my stupid conversion therapist can act like I don't have a relationship with my holy daddy in heaven. While Christopher was suffering his way into Christianity in federal prison, his mother was in her prayer prison, rocking back and forth in maniacal glee. Her hateful little son was finally exactly where she wanted him.
I could not hold my tears any longer. Even though my son sat in jail, my heart overflowed with joy and thanksgiving. Being reconnected with our son after so many years, regardless of his predicament, was almost too good to be true. I even stood on the witness stand at Christopher's sentencing hearing and told the judge not to give my son a short sentence, but not to give him a long sentence either. I asked the judge to give Christopher a sentence just long enough so that our son would surrender his life to God.
Though unlucky for Angela, her son would get out of prison sooner than expected because he was a dirty little snitch. I had a PI friend pull up his court records to verify all of his claims, and yeah, he was not lying. He was a dirty little snitch. And so Christopher got out of jail, went to God College, got his Jesus degree, and then made his mistakes everyone else's problem for the rest of his life. And for the rest of his father's life, which we know because he's dead.
A few of you may know this, but my dear father, very suddenly and unexpectedly in July 2022, went home to be with the Lord.
This is the hardest part of my job. I've done it 1,000 times and it just keeps getting easier. What's left of your husband is dead.
The week before his homegoing, it was his birthday, and his birthday wish was for these lessons to be finished as soon as possible. Mom looked at me very adamantly and told me, we are going to tell everyone that Dr. Leon Yuan is not dead.
Maybe I am in denial. Unless, of course, he's alive.
Your daddy is dead.
Dr. Leon Yuan is not dead. He is now more alive than he ever was before.
No, he's actually pretty fucking dead. He's actually never been more dead, actually. As dead as they get.
My daddy's alive and yours is dead and ain't nothing gonna change that.
And today, after all of that, Christopher spends his time posting nonsense on social media and trying to groom children into rejecting themselves the way he rejected himself, teaching them about their sexuality with a clear agenda to instill in them the kind of self-destroying hatred that leads children to suicide, sexual assault, and lifelong disability. Which is coming up tomorrow. Well, I didn't think it'd be possible to hate Christopher more than I already do, but then I scrolled through his Twitter feed. His account is embarrassing. He has like 48,000 followers, but only because this freak has mass followed over 32,000 people. Who the hell follows 32,000 people? Not only that, but his profile is just pure self-promotion and vitriol. This man is a homophobic, racist, misogynist little Zionist when someone who, let's be very clear, was not speaking to him said, "I am Charlie Kirk" means I am a racist, homophobic, transphobic, misogynistic, anti-immigrant fascist who despises empathy. He quote tweeted with this, "How dare you call me, an Asian, son of two immigrants, lived as a gay man for nearly a decade, as someone who you think is racist, homophobic, and anti-immigrant. Blood is on your hands. I am Charlie Kirk. You're not Charlie Kirk. Are you even trying to be? Jesus Christ, put your neck into it, baby. You aren't Charlie Kirk. You are most of those things they listed, though. Getting mad that someone said you're racist when you're perfectly happy joining in with an old white lady who said that if Charlie Kirk was black, the left would be fine calling him a martyr is kind of silly. Christopher tweets shit like feminism encourages women to make themselves ugly, and haha, more like LGBTQH plus, H for Hamas, and like they're turning the dogs into theys. But cries foul when people are like, you're kind of a misogynist and a homophobe. And sorry, weirdo, but you can't use your ex identity as a gay man as both a cudgel and a shield. And the fact that he tries to proves that all of his talk about his only identity being God's disciple is bullshit. He will prattle off a list of identities at the drop of a fucking hat. And he can't go 2 minutes without opening his mouth to yap about all the loads that have been lost to it. Through some sleuthing on his social medias, I found out Homoboy Hair was engaged to be married. Although I could only find references to the video announcing the engagement, as he's curiously deleted all posts discussing it. Gone from Insta, gone from Twitter, gone from his own website, except for a single post on the Internet Archive.
Today, July 3rd, 2024, is Dad's homegoing anniversary, and
If I could accept your father's death, why can't you?
2 years, 1 week ago, Dad made a spontaneous wish as he blew out his birthday candles. I'm here to announce that God is answering Dad's wish. On June 22nd, I got down on my knee and proposed to one of the most godly, beautiful, and capable women I've ever met. She's indescribably more than I could ever hope for or deserve. And can you believe it? Penny said yes. I look forward to introducing you to the woman that I love, cherish, and by God's grace, will provide for, protect, and lay down my life. Rejoice with me as God continues to write our testimony as an example of the amazing power of God's saving and sanctifying grace. To God be the glory.
After this, there was nothing. Even after he broke his little spine, she's not there in any of the photos. There's no mention of her ever again. His mother is in like every post, but Penny? Nothing. If they are engaged or married, they don't seem to really think marriage means like caring for one another. But what do I know? Maybe most married couples never speak to or see each other. I'm just starting out on this journey. And maybe one day I'll marry a woman who is into too. And I'd be more than down with that, as long as she's a man. Ugh, being straight is so hard. I need to go to bed. It's almost like 7 p.m. And I've been awake for longer than Christopher was gay. You know, I might just sleep in my little prayer tub marine. That way I'm never more than a girthy 6 inches away from Jesus' penetrating stare. Good night. God, have your way with me and help me to delight in you in whatever position I'm in. After a bad night's sleep, I can see how you'd be more willing to believe being gay is a punishment. After all, I'm gay and I'm in pain. How could the two not be related? It's like I always say, correlation isn't correlation, it's causation. I woke up craving some homo milk, but no homo, so I poured it out at the milkman's feet because I'm not allowed to milk men. Instead, I'm getting all the nutrition I need from the seed of God himself. Also, I'm vegan. I need to get out of this tub because my sciatica is flaring up. So let's go get our Westboro Baptist Church on, shall we?
Oh, you can stop God. You'll see what he's got. 9/11.
Why is sexual immorality such a big deal? Being a member of Christ is not a metaphor, it's a physical reality. As a Christian, if you have sex with your boyfriend, experiment with someone of the same sex, watch pornography, or even masturbate, you're actually involving a member of Christ in that nefarious act.
We've talked about this Christ stuffer. If Jesus doesn't want his fat little cock sucked, then he needs to get the fuck out of whatever its body he's squatting in before I get my paws on him. If anything, Jesus is the pervert here.
Sexual immorality is different than every other sin. Why? Because sexual sins involve the body. We are not our own, and our bodies are not our own.
This is so disturbing, and given the church's history with sex abuse scandals, I can't see how teaching children their bodies aren't their own wouldn't be entirely harmful.
I doubt any of you have sinned more sexually than myself.
Well, you'd be wrong about that, because unlike you, I didn't quit as soon as it got hard. In fact, once it gets hard, I'm often just getting started. And I'm not sure that God forgave you, given he just killed your bigot daddy and broke your bigot spine. God tried to stop this man for good, and he circumvented God's will and let probably a bunch of atheists use science, which God is highly allergic to fix him.
Isn't our God so indescribably and unceasingly amazing? This is the God we serve.
Oh, he's kind of stale. The hummus sort of makes up for it, but we may want to serve a different God with a little more flavor.
Holy sexuality is chastity in singleness or faithfulness in marriage. So what is the purpose of sex? Sex in biblical marriage gives glory to God. God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and...
Okay, God also made Adam walk on his sexy little feet, but you still drive to work anyway, you little criminal. I will say I support criminals, much like I would imagine Jesus did in that book I haven't read, The Great Gatsby. But I will not be lectured on morality by someone stupid enough to get caught with 91 tons of marijuana and enough self-compiled evidence to convict a small country of drug trafficking.
Should lust ever be celebrated? Never. Objectifying any person's body, male or female, is always wrong.
It's like he's giving himself an out here. I don't need to become straight because even that's kind of a sin. When you think about it, I'm even holier now than a lot of straight people. You could even say I was a saint. Jesus is turning water into cope here, and Mummy's biggest crustake is gobbling it up.
Being single is not a choice.
Incel. Incel, he's an incel. Tu es incel, toi. Toi, t'es un incel.
Being single is not a choice, because I've never met anyone who was born married.
Being single is a choice. Just because you weren't born in a relationship does not mean it's not a choice when you're old enough to consent. That's like saying drinking milk isn't a choice as an adult because you spent your first months chugging on human dairy. Months? How long do people breastfeed for? If you're ever a baby, sound off in the comments. He acts like being gay is a choice despite not being able to choose not to be it, but being single isn't? Every day, people decide to break up with someone and become single. Every day, people turn down someone who asked them out, deciding to remain single. Every day, people cloister themselves away from society, opting to be single.
In the past few years, I've had several teenage girls come to me with a major concern, pull me aside and whisper, I think I'm asexual. And I whisper back, why? Because I don't have any sexual desires. And I say, okay, let me tell you what that means. You're a teenage girl.
Yes, teenage girls famously never experience any sexual attraction. I want to sit him down in a room full of teenage girls who are boy band stans and have him try this shit. Even those little surgeons wouldn't be able to bring him back from that. And I don't want them to. In his book and videos, he constantly yaps about this couple, Mark and Andrea. Basically, Mark was gay and hot and hated himself, and Andrea was a survivor who had a couple abortions. So both of them, in despair, decided to get together because it would feel safe for both of them. But then Mark started to get all horned up.
After some time, Mark began noticing some things about her. Her hair, she smelled good, and she had curves. He says, puberty is hard going through once, try going through puberty twice.
Oh, so Little Miss Latent Bisexual can have a second puberty, but when trans people try and do it, all of a sudden God is pissed? Sure. The two of them get married, and on their wedding night, Mark says,
honey, I can't explain this. I'm not attracted to any other women. I'm only attracted to you.
Which is actually probably exactly the sort of thing many straight women want to hear from their gay husbands. So this is what this was all leading to. The idea that if you simply try to live heterosexuality, God may bless you with double puberty. That's actually my favorite Ashley Judd movie. I find it so interesting that he portrays Mark's objectification of Andrea without any condemnation, despite earlier saying that thinking about someone's body like that was a sin.
When does it turn into sin? When he turns his head, looks at her body, and begins objectifying her and fantasizing about her.
I'd say thinking about a woman in terms of her shape is objectifying based on his definition of it, and I doubt you can make a claim that a guy going through puberty wouldn't be thinking some sexual thoughts.
Leviticus 18 verse 22. You shall not lie with a male as with a woman. It is an abomination. And if there's anything that I say or anything that an expert might say that contradicts this, do not believe it.
Okay, well, I definitely don't lie with a male as with a woman. I don't lie with women, only to women. Like when I tell Siri I'm sorry after yelling at her, but I'm not. Let me get this straight, seeing as I'm in conversion therapy and all. So Christians believe in science. Unless someone says the Bible contradicts it, then they immediately disbelieve it and submit themselves to God in the Bible they say he Holy Ghost wrote. There are so many ways he slithers around just admitting he's targeting gay people by pretending he's focusing on scripture instead. But he's wrong, or lying, or both. I don't discriminate. His story about Bark and Melissa or whatever demonstrated that perfectly. He's terrible at this surreptitious homophobic dog whistling business, but he doesn't even bother trying to hide behind dog whistles when he discusses trans people. My homo boy sounds like Joanne Ketamine Rowling.
Our culture celebrates the removal of breasts or genitals and the addition of artificial breast or imitation genitals as acceptable and even courageous. This happens today because of the damaging lie that the body does not matter, and it can be counterfeited and replaced or cut and tossed aside.
Trans people, probably on the whole, have less medical intervention than you just had putting your shitty little spine back together. You aren't concerned about altering the body to suit how you want to live your life. Most trans people are not saying the body does not matter. In fact, many are patently arguing the exact opposite. Their bodies matter to them, and aligning their bodies to their person is intrinsically linked to their comfort and contentment, let alone safety. Funnily, the man who is saying that we should surrender everything, including our autonomy and freedom, over everything, including our bodies, is now insinuating it's everyone else who is devaluing their body. He never seems able to argue against anything but a straw man, and I don't know if that's because he's just not that bright, or he's actively trying to manipulate people. If I had to guess, I'd say he's probably like his friend Mark, down with a little bit of both.
Are there more than two genders? 1 generation ago, questions like this were unheard of.
No, they weren't. One of my dearest friends is a professor and author, Dr. Celeste E. Orr, whose research, broadly speaking, concerns intersex, queer, and disability studies, and I've learned so much from them. Chris, if you're watching, I had someone whose sources aren't the Bible actually address all of your claims in the next section. Everyone in the comments say, thank you, Dr. Celeste.
1 generation ago, questions like this were unheard of.
1 generation ago? Not to any scholar worth their weight in salt. Historians, sociologists, philosophers, as well as gender, sexuality, and indigenous studies scholars, for example, have not only been asking this question for ages, but also definitively answering it. Yes, there are more than 2 genders recognized and honored in various cultures, past and present. Various white settler colonial missionaries also recognized, hated and disparaged, but did acknowledge that indigenous cultures recognize more than 2 genders, but they would mischaracterize Two-Spirit people and describe them as perverts and sodomites who go against God's patriarchal, cis-heteronormative will. For example, Pedro Font, a Jesuit, wrote in his diaries, "Among the women I saw men dressed like women, with whom they go about regularly, never joining the men. From this I inferred they must be hermaphrodites, but from what I learned later, I understood they were sodomites, dedicated to nefarious practices. From all the foregoing, I conclude that in this matter of incontinence, there will be much to do when the holy faith and the Christian religion are established among them." Martin Cannon writes of Font's diary entry, Font sought to establish a system of Christian morality, one that was and is evidently invested in denying, suppressing, and erasing the fact that there are more than 2 genders, and people go about being more than one of 2 cisgenders. George Caelan wrote in a letter dated 1859, "It," meaning Two-Spirit people, "is one of the most unaccountable and disgusting customs that I have ever met in the Indian country, and I should wish that it might be extinguished before it be more fully recorded." Caelan, like many others, refused to fully record Two-Spirit people in his writings and paintings about indigenous peoples. White settler colonizers sought to suppress, oppress, and erase indigenous nations and peoples, as well as their more expansive gender, sex, and sexuality categories. Christopher wants to do the same.
1 generation ago, questions like this were unheard of, but today, it's the air we breathe.
Maybe you just need to go outside, girl, because when you spend all your time on X.com interacting with Christian nationalists, yeah, you're going to be huffing all sorts of rank 2016 discourse.
Maybe a toddler you know is being raised gender neutral. Perhaps stores in your area require employee name tags with preferred pronouns. You may even have a close friend or relative who is transitioning.
Okay, so are children being raised as Christians the air we breathe? Because there's way more of that. Are name tags with only names the air we breathe? Because that's way more common. If trans issues are the air you breathe, perhaps pop your head out of your mom's basement. By which I mean your own anus.
Gender doesn't describe who we are, but how we are.
He keeps saying this about identity as if everything about our internal and material reality has no impact on who we are. As if the way we live our lives, our beliefs, our actions, our relationships to each other and the world aren't all components of who we are. Who are we if not our thoughts, actions, impacts? I can't imagine hating yourself so much that you need to convince yourself that your personality and internal reality have no bearing on who you are, because who you are disgusts you.
Sex is an objective binary classification of male or female.
Well, maybe in your little book, but no scientist is calling sex binary.
Our sex is not grounded in personal feelings and self-perceptions. It can be confirmed through our biology. In other words, with science. And believe it or not, Christians do believe in science.
I mean, you don't. And many don't. Half of you think the world is 5,000 years old, and like a quarter of you think that 5,000-year-old world is flat. The thing is, sex, human biologies are grounded in personal feelings. How we understand and interpret body parts is a cultural practice that is inevitably influenced by cultural norms, political standpoints, and feelings. Science is a cultural practice. One can never look at the human body objectively. One can never look at the body outside of culture. What science and social science tells us is that sex isn't binary, and how sex is understood is interpreted through cultural norms. There does not exist an unmediated natural truth of the body. Our perceptions and interpretations of the body are mediated through language, meaning the language we use to describe biology gives meaning to biology. Our biological parts do not innately have gendered meaning. Scientific facts are not objectively given, but are collectively created, revised, recreated, and contested.
Some even contend that sex is assigned at birth. This simply isn't true. The sex of a newborn is not assigned, but observed. It's observed visually, a baby's privates, and genetically through a DNA test.
Sex is assigned, often through observation, yes. It's not one or the other, clearly. He seems really confused. When the hospital staff fill out a birth certificate, they aren't just observing, they're also assigning. Literally, observe, assign. Sex is also objectively assigned through medical means, like with intersex people and intersex genital mutilation. The point is that while assigning a sex based on their observations, those observations are sometimes flawed, much more often than people think.
Let's look at the animal kingdom. Do we describe the sex of animals as assigned? Take, for example, puppies. No one arbitrarily assigns sex to puppies. We don't need to ask the puppy or try to discern the puppy's inner thoughts to figure out its sex. That's quite funny to even consider doing this. A male puppy or a female puppy is simply observed. It's actually quite elementary.
I agree that your thinking is quite elementary. I also think maybe you should have gone to a real school after elementary. I don't know if you know this, Crystalline, but puppies, they can't speak. I'm glad you find it funny, though. I bet you had a real guffaw coming up with that one. A real knee slapper, huh, Grandpa? Maybe I should do math. I feel like I'd be much easier to entertain. Christopher, leave a comment and tell me how it feels to be, like, totally free of critical thought. And actually, Christmas, the book Biological Exuberance, would like to have a word with you. Animals are so gay and queer and trans and intersex. I wouldn't really use those terms for non-human animals, but as shorthand, yeah, nature, unlike the pool of knowledge Christopher is drawing from, is incredibly diverse.
Now the question becomes, is sex truly binary? Is everyone either male or female? What about people who are intersex?
The sex binary is a myth that is recreated and reconstructed through, for example, denying the existence of intersex people, erasing trans and non-binary people, literally surgically altering intersex people so they better fit the myth of dyadic sex.
So the first point is that anomalies don't erase scientific categories. That would be anti-science. And remember, Christians do believe in science.
Well, you went to Bible college where science means biblical evidence that the world is 5,000 years old, so let it go. Intersex people are not anomalies. Intersex variations are so common. It is entirely anti-science to turn a blind eye to variations because they mess up your taxonomical systems like a sex binary just because you're culturally invested in it. Recent estimates put the amount of intersex people anywhere between 1% to 2% of the population, and what intersex scholar Carrie Gabriel Costello says is a conservative estimate, 1 in 150 people. Which means you may be more likely to meet an intersex person than someone with red hair. Claiming that sex is binary is like claiming there are only 2 hair colors. It's just flat out wrong, and worse, it bores me. And that's not to mention what I'm absolutely about to mention, that if his issue with there being more than 2 sexes is that intersex people aren't common enough to constitute anything but an anomaly, you absolutely cannot apply that to queer people. You can't shake a stick without hitting someone queer. And I wouldn't. His arguments always seem to rely on you forgetting all of the other arguments he's made. Chris, I may not remember the names of 99% of the hundreds of men I've slept with, but I'll remember your shitty fucking rhetoric forever. Until the video is out. He then moves on to the culture war against trans people, whining like Jordan Beef Eaterson about pronouns.
Individuals are enforced to use pronouns that aren't preferred, but kind of mandated, along with newly chosen names matching self-perception rather than objective truth.
In what situation are you being forced to use pronouns for someone that you previously wouldn't have been? If I go up to my cishet male boss, which I don't have, and start calling him miss and ma'am, do you think there might be an issue? Yeah, because I'm being fucking rude. There's no objective truth about pronouns, and you only believe that there is because you don't know what either of those words mean.
Devaluing the body has real consequences. This mental distress is called gender dysphoria, which, to be clear, is a psychological consequence of the fall.
Well, I think your poor reasoning here is a consequence of the fall. Your fall, when God dropped you on your stupid little head and broke your back. How about them apples? How you like this forbidden fruit? The irony of invoking devaluing the body becomes apparent when examining Christianity's antagonistic relationship with human bodies. Christian doctrine has positioned the body as corrupted by original sin, requiring discipline and transcendence. Christianity teaches believers to distrust and punish their bodies. Fasting, celibacy, and martyrdom glorification communicate that bodies must be controlled for spiritual purity. When conversion therapists claim transgender healthcare devalues bodies, they ignore their tradition's teaching that earthly bodies are corrupted and less valuable than the soul.
Transgenderism is not exclusively a battle for what is male or female. It is a battle for what is truth.
Trans people pursuing gender-affirming care are affirming their bodies by aligning them with their authentic selves, the opposite of devaluation. The same Bible conversion therapist claim contains absolute truth about gender was used to defend slavery, subordinate women, and justify colonialism. These positions have been abandoned because cultural values evolved and forced reinterpretation. The real battle for truth is whether we'll base our understanding on modern medicine and trans people's experiences, or privilege theological interpretations while rejecting science. Trans people asking to be recognized aren't denying truth. They're living it, while conversion therapists peddle the falsehood that identity can be tortured away. Here's the truth. When Christopher sees a man in gray sweatpants, he likely gets just as wet as everybody else does.
It makes me as damp as a cellar down there. All mildewy. Enter if you dare.
When we look at scripture, male or female goes much deeper than simply physical.
Wait, what? Didn't you just say it was entirely observable by a doctor? Now sex is some part of our soul?
Male or female is not simply a biological or genetic reality. Male or female is an essential body and soul reality created by God.
Okay, so you've just gone full circle and reinvented gender, but worse. Okay, I can't handle this. Thank God we're done. Good night, sir. Good night. I'm going to my closet. I've learned a lot today. Not from Christian Tafur, of course, but about how easily Christian nationalists lie to themselves and others, invoking science to appeal to people more rational than they are, but with barely a fleeting understanding of what the scientific consensus is, and always relying on the Bible to support their scientific arguments. I'm gonna be so real with you here. I'm not finding any of this very convincing. And the 20 Trump bucks I spent on this course is not feeling like it's worth it at all. Chrissy's little website claims that each license should be priced between $300 to $500 for, I guess, reasons that have never been stated. But this was all filmable in like 2 days if he tried, and it was one shitty little set, and half of it is ripped straight from a book he'd already written. You could produce, edit, and host all of this for like $10,000 max if you add in all these entirely unnecessary animations. So where did that $1.2 million he got for it go? He says it so we can get the courses for $20 each, but what does that even mean? There's no cost apart from hosting. It's not like he has to climb into the computer and act it all out for everyone who buys the license. I don't know, I'm not accusing this convicted felon of fraud, but I have plenty of questions about where this money went. He says all proceeds go to the next project aimed at grooming preteens, but I guess we'll see if that one also has sacrificial donors. Tomorrow is the final day of coursework, and then I can finally start living my real, inauthentic life, and finally unbecome the person I wasn't always meant not to be. Oh fuck, these actually are really good. Oh, Jesus Christ, yeah. Work it, work it, work it. God, have your way with me and help me to delight in you in whatever position I'm in. Did I break it? Oops. There's only one thing hotter than an incel, and that's literally everyone else. You'd think that people would have realized by now that manufacturing more sexually frustrated, repressed, angry young people in a country with more guns than books is a really dangerous fucking idea. But to Christopher, he's extremely into it. In fact, he's so into it, he refers to singleness as a gift. Try telling that to 4chan.
Singleness is often cast in a negative light. From our childhood, we're practically taught to idolize marriage.
I do think he's right that singleness is stigmatized, but he jumps right over why. Christian nationalism's obsession with marriage. The American Christian right has fought for decades to maintain legal privileges for married couples and constructed policies that financially penalize single people while rewarding marriage. When conversion therapists tell gay people that singleness is a beautiful option, they're creating a two-tiered system where straight Christians get promised partnership and affirmation through marriage, while gay Christians are told to accept their lifelong loneliness and paying all of their own bills. It's theological gaslighting, building a culture that centers marriage as the pinnacle of human flourishing and then telling excluded people they should be grateful for their isolation. If these people really genuinely believe singleness was equally valid, they'd encourage straight Christians to embrace celibacy at the same rates that they do with gay people. They never do, though, because the goal isn't promoting singleness, it's punishing queer people. He goes on to say that all sorts of people are called to the Lord, married or unmarried, circumcised or uncircumcised. These are the two questions I ask every man on Grindr, because I can't get into it if he isn't cheating, and I want to know how much lube to bring. I'm what you'd call unethically non-monogamous, and I'm so fucking valid that I made a flag.
You may be thinking that lifelong singleness is the only option for believers with same-sex attractions. We also shouldn't discount the possibility that God can sovereignly do what may seem improbable to us.
He actually goes farther here than some Christians would. And instead of saying all gays should be single, he says if they get into opposite-sex relationships, God might make them straight if they're holy enough. Forcing gay people into relationships with people who they aren't romantically attracted to is just dooming them to failure. Your parents hated each other, and look at them now. Half of them are dead, and all of them raised a criminal.
Singles need to practice self-control, but self-control shouldn't be unique to singles. Actually, self-control is a fruit of the Spirit.
You're a fruit of the Spirit.
Being single isn't special. It's not super spiritual. It's simply a gift from God. So how do you know if you have the gift of singleness? Are you single? You currently have the gift.
In a way, being denied autonomy and equal rights is like a gift from God. Okay, well, what's the return window? Are we talking 30 days or like Amazon around Christmas where they give you until January? All of this is just preparation, laying groundwork as to why, if being single is a gift, being denied access to marriage should not be seen as negative or an infringement on human rights. He does not believe in equal rights for all humans, clear from his hatred for Justice Anthony Kennedy, who on June 26, 2015, wrote the majority opinion legalizing same-sex marriage nationwide in the United States and under Canada.
Justice Kennedy's majority opinion also stated that if individuals were denied marriage, they would be condemned to live in loneliness. So, according to the Supreme Court, all of you teens are condemned and wretchedly lonely because you happen to be single.
That's actually not at all what he said, but I will say that I don't agree with the phrasing condemned to live in loneliness either. But some people would feel that way about never being able to get married. Not because they can never be in a relationship, but because it's isolating to be excluded from something you're told from birth is a necessary rite of passage. Using a single line from this man's statement to discredit him is faulty logic from someone who believes it's Satan that wants him to ride at reverse cowgirl, and not that it's just fun and probably empowering. He stops the quote at a comma, while erroneously placing a period there to convince viewers it was the end of the sentence. It wasn't. How the sentence actually ends is necessary to understand why same-sex marriage was passed into law. Their hope is not to be condemned to live in loneliness, comma, excluded from one of civilization's oldest institutions. They ask for equal dignity in the eyes of the law. The Constitution grants them that right. With the full quote, it's open to interpretation if part of the loneliness is being excluded from one of civilization's oldest institutions. Would you not say that being excluded would make you feel othered and maybe Lonely?
Our culture wrongly thinks that marriage is a basic human right that everyone has access and freedom to choose. However, marriage is not a right, but a holy covenant between one man and one woman, husband and wife.
No, marriage is a basic human right, and it's your religious culture that thinks it isn't. What he's saying here is he doesn't believe in equal rights under the law. He's the worst kind of gay, a homophobic one. Well, that'll be another video.
Therefore, marriage is not a basic human or civil right. As Christians, we have no rights. Our only right is in Christ.
Oh, really? Because my PI bestie dug into your history, and you have several court documents from when you sued corporations claiming your rights were being infringed upon because people would rather not give you a nonprofit discount because they don't offer it to religious nonprofits. There's no greater hypocrite than this greedy little bottom. He denies the rights of others and pretends he applies the same to himself, but when it comes to making cash, he will abandon his morals faster than his mother abandoned him.
Christians are called to love everyone, even our enemies. Only Christians do this.
Bullshit. Bullshit from a butthole on a bastard. His dead little crush Charlie Kirk said, "I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that does a lot of damage, so no." And he still went to his little funeral. Funeral? The thing they do after you die where they all celebrate you at a football stadium. I assume that's how it always goes in America.
If marriage was truly a right, then why can't all those singles who want to marry get it? Where is their right?
I'm sorry, I have to ask. When God threw you off that roof, did you, die? Was there an extended period of time when your brain was deprived of oxygen? The only people who do have the right to get married are single. Married people are actually barred from getting married. Quite famously. Actually, it's basically the only rule. And that's it. That's all the most relevant points from his 6+ hour series. That is apparently everything I need to know to renounce my homosexuality and embrace my holy sexuality. So now, the real journey begins. While I was working on this video, I received a message from a member of my community who told me they had a Zoom call with Christopher set up by their pastor, and the things he allegedly said to a 12-year-old were disturbing. We introduced ourselves, and then he said, "I understand you're dealing with the same problem I had when I was young." I went on to describe my path to coming out and the guilt and shame I felt, and his response was, "We feel guilty when we know we did wrong. It's completely normal to feel ashamed of unnatural desires." He went on to tell me that the road ahead won't be an easy one and I will struggle every day, but if I turn to God instead of my worldly wants, I will overcome. I asked, why is being gay wrong if it's not hurting anyone? He said, "For you do not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit, whom is in you, whom you have received from God. You are not your own. You were bought at a price, therefore honor God with your body. And when you use sexuality in a way that God did not intend, you are molesting God. God gets hurt. God gets violated." What Yuan didn't know was at the time I was being sexually abused by a youth leader, which makes the whole situation that much more messed up looking back on it. I, always needing an answer, asked if my homosexuality was unnatural, then why was it observed in animals? His response was, "Do you see yourself as lowly as an animal? That you cannot control your desires more than a dog?" He had this really talented way of shutting down conversation and making you feel stupid for even challenging him. He said that to be a homosexual is to be selfish and you're damning yourself to a life of crime. Looking back, I feel like he did a lot of projecting, almost like he thought because he was a criminal when he was gay, then every other gay person also has to be a criminal too. It was 2 hours that did years worth of damage. He went into major detail about the suffering I would face in hell if I didn't repent, and I still get really intense panic attacks to this day when I think about death because of him. He reaffirmed the idea that I had that I was dirty and sinful and unworthy of love. He made me feel smaller than I had ever before. I'm still processing the extent of what he said to me. And this was even before he claimed he was changed and got engaged to a woman. This was about a year before he started the Holy Sexuality Project. Honestly, I don't even want to think about the way he's harming kids now. By this account, a 12-year-old was told by their pastor that he could help them no longer be queer, and without any parental consent, set up a call with Christopher, which leads us to the question I hear thrown around quite frequently about conversion practices. Shouldn't people have the right to any kind of therapy they want? Maybe. This isn't therapy, and it doesn't work. I am firmly against any and all harmful pseudosciences being peddled to desperate and vulnerable people by greedy, dangerous, fanatical grifters. It's accounts like this that caused me to make this video, and although I've been trying to break up the horrific reality with moments of levity, working on it is just really made me so fucking sick and angry. Partly because of the vitriolic bigotry, but also because his claims are just so stupid. Like, I can't believe I've learned everything I need to know how to be a straight gender non-homosexual in only 4 days. Because I haven't. Because that's not how anything works. Because conversion therapy doesn't work. But as a certified paranormal investigator, ex-gay, and now preacher's doctor, I have to put my whole pussy into this, or I cannot test the claims being made. So all I need to do is keep at it for just over 2 weeks. And after that, I'll be right back here to tell you how it went. So I did the math, and I'm 100% straighter than I've ever been. And as we all know, 100% of 0 is extremely gay. I'll probably file a chargeback on my credit card because the product was not as promised, but I'll do that after my plans tonight. Just thought I'd check in before I started making it for last time. God, this is so bright. Okay, we need to move this. I've been thinking a lot about Christopher's assertion that LGBTQ+ people make their queerness their core identity, which is just another way to parrot that old right-wing dog whistle, why does your sexuality have to be your entire personality? Anti-queer people always act as if we made being queer an important part of our identities, as if our entire existence hasn't been a steady indoctrination of propaganda and media and expectations that paint straight cis people as normal and queer people as other. Well, guess what? You did this. You called us slurs. You told us we were wholly disgusting because of one part of us. You diminished us to nothing but our sexuality, and you did it so you could feel powerful. And when we take that back from you, and you can no longer control us with that shame and the threats of eternal damnation, you try and gaslight us into thinking that publicly rejecting your abuse is an overreaction on our parts. We didn't whittle ourselves down, reducing complex human beings to just being gay. You did. We just worked with what we were given. And bitch, did we work? But now you're mad because we're doing it with pride instead of shame, because again, it's about power and control, and you not having it over us anymore. Their inability to even fathom the innate differences between our lives and their lives is almost mind-boggling. But partly that does come from our own messaging. We're just like you, we just want to be loved. Like, no. I don't want straight people to treat me like they treat other straight people, because y'all treat each other like shit. I just want to be left alone. And until I am, I'm going to be angry. I am going to be loud, because anger against oppression is a clean burning fuel, and I have been angry all of my life. I do not feel shame because that shame is theirs, not mine. That rage, though, that belongs to me, to wield, direct, weaponize. We live under constant attack from outside of our community, and we may think that assimilation will protect us, but it won't. Assimilation is not liberation, and right now the Christian right is mobilizing in a unified campaign to strip trans people of their basic human rights. And if you're a cis gay and think that you're not next, you haven't been paying attention. They will take everything, every single thing we've worked for, and they will laugh as they do it. As Christianity loses members faster than they can recruit them, and more people come out as who they truly are, the backlash will intensify. These are rabid, dying animals lashing out from loss of control. And they're going to lose. With every passing year, they realize there is no stopping us. We are their parents, children, siblings, teachers, firefighters, surgeons. We are everywhere. We are everyone. And they are terrified of a world where they no longer have the power to push us back into hiding. Conversion therapy and torture causes severe psychological harm to LGBTQ+ individuals who undergo these practices. Research consistently demonstrates that these interventions lead to increased rates of depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation. It's even been linked to elevated blood pressure and increased systemic inflammation. Individuals who underwent conversion therapy had more than double the odds of lifetime suicide attempts compared to those who did not receive that. Major medical and mental health organizations worldwide have condemned conversion therapy as pseudoscientific and harmful. The American Psychological Association concluded in its 2009 task force report that efforts to change sexual orientation are unlikely to be successful and involve some risk of harm, and that sexual orientation change efforts can lead to confusion, depression, guilt, helplessness, hopelessness, shame, social withdrawal, suicidality, substance abuse, stress, disappointment, self-blame, decreased self-esteem and authenticity to others, increased self-hatred, hostility and blame towards parents, feelings of anger and betrayal, loss of friends and potential romantic partners, problems in sexual and emotional intimacy, sexual dysfunction, high-risk sexual behaviors, and a feeling of being dehumanized and untrue to self, a loss of faith, and a sense of having wasted time and resources. Despite overwhelming evidence of harm and lack of efficacy, conversion therapy practices continue to happen in many jurisdictions. The Williams Institute at UCLA School of Law estimated in 2019 that approximately 698,000 adults in the United States had received conversion therapy, with about half receiving it as adolescents. Numerous countries, including my own, Canada, have banned the practice, and these legislative effects reflect growing recognition that conversion therapy constitutes a harmful practice that violates human rights and medical ethics. Their biggest problem is having to see us living without shame. Our biggest problem is that they're trying to fucking kill us, literally and metaphorically. They almost killed me. I let the darkness take over after I was hate crimed, beaten on the side of the road by 3 men while I was on my way to work. That darkness was heavy, leaden, and crushing. After that, I slipped further and further into my fear. I got so deep that eventually months could go by without my leaving the house. I had a plan to end my life. I had a date set. With every day alone in the single room of my apartment, the world around me got smaller and darker, and I could feel it. And like each new shadow carried a weight. Eventually, the shadows of what they'd done to me were bleached white by joy, by my friends. The queer people who loved me, who never tried to make me into something less than I was. See, I forgot what the wind felt like. I forgot how the smell of petrichor after a rain used to make me feel buzzy and alive. I forgot what it felt like to want to be alive, to look forward with anything but abject despair. And that's exactly what they want. But I remember now all the time what it feels like to not be isolated, scared, filled up with the shame and fear they force-fed me to stop me from being who I am. They'll tell you that you don't know who you are, but you know better than they do. And they'll tell you that you don't belong, but we've existed as long as they have. And they will try to shame you into thinking you don't deserve to be heard, to be seen, and to be respected, to feel joy. But they're wrong about us. The world will try to label you, to define you, to make you other, and then claim that other means wrong. They will push this shame into your head with so much force every day of your life until you believe it's yours. It's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. Let it go. Give it back. I started out holding so much empathy for Christopher, so much sadness for how much he went through with his parents, but he has crossed every single line, burned every fucking bridge. I know the harm he's done. I know the pain he continues to cause. And I would be entirely unsurprised if years from now we hear about this pain. We find out that some poor kid ended it all because of the debilitating shame Christopher encouraged in them.
I intend to spend the rest of my life living it as if it's the rest of my life, not just the prologue to eternity in heaven with a bunch of people who are probably entirely obnoxious. And my life is actually quite lovely for a disabled queer person. I get to follow my passions, make art, and live in community with some of the kindest, most gracious, and loving people alive. I hope one day Christopher Yuan learns that his bitterness towards himself for the mistakes he made is not a reason for everyone else to suffer, but I'm not going to hold my breath, because you can't hold air. If you want to support my lavish lifestyle of 18-hour workdays, sitting here investigating some of the vilest shit you can imagine, and then somehow making it palatable and entertaining, you can become a member on my Patreon or YouTube. All the post-its in the prayer closet were actually sent in by members, mostly on the Discord, just for members, where they get to follow along with the investigations as they're happening. And they're about to get wild. You have no idea. If you found this video disrespectful, but also kind of like that, you should watch my podcast, Respect the Dead, where we don't. We got all your fave daddies like Trump's dead dad, Charles Manson, Christopher Columbus, and whatever the hell that stupid healthcare CEO's name? Robert? I don't know. It doesn't matter because he's dead. As of right now, there's almost no time left for my Indiegogo campaign for my upcoming horror audio drama. We're at the final stretch goal, so head over and get some dope rewards by donating. There's going to be a promo happening right about soon, so stay tuned, or I'll scream. Oh, hi.
My name's Caelan Conrad, and I'm a video essayist, podcaster, and VFX designer. I also co-host the Respect the Dead podcast, a comedy show on all the worst people in history. Librarian is an audio drama loosely based on real tragedies that have occurred due to unregulated access to generative AI like ChatGPT. Loosely is key here. We're keeping it tasteful and fictional. Librarian is written by myself and my colleague Brona, a frequent collaborator on my YouTube channel. The premise is simple. What if the suicides, murders, and psychoses being triggered by AI worldwide were instead being encouraged by a single man in your community, the local librarian? We are so passionate about art and community and human connection, and we want Librarian to be art that can not only draw attention to the insidious ways people have been groomed by AI, but to the loneliness, heartbreak, and desperation intertwined in it. Our only roadblock to making Librarian a reality is the funding. We have the passion and experience in spades. So here's a little teaser for what we have planned, and I hope that you'll donate. There are some really cool rewards.
I don't understand why you couldn't talk to me. Why you wouldn't even leave a note. You could have told me anything. You had to know I'd come here. There's no way you thought I would be able to leave this alone. And now I'm pressed against a dumpster, lockpicked deep in the back door of the last place you texted me from. Thank God this town is small enough that the library isn't open on Sundays. Probably can't afford it. Luckily for me, they can't afford a decent security system either. There was another funeral today, Danny. I walked past it on my way here. It's the third suicide in 3 months, including yours. At least they all left notes. You just left. And I'm going to find out why.
To hear.
My baby's blue, but he never lets it show. Instead, he hides it through meticulous tableaus. And he's perfect straight A's with that California smile. I love when he stays, but he loves me like a child. I can't keep from holding on to everything he's planned. I can't keep from